All right, welcome to this episode of My VA Disability Claim. All right, what we're going to talk about today is what you need to know about the appeals process. All right, it's a new appeals process that they got out there. It was rolled out back in 2019 when they first started rolling it out, right? And it's totally different than what it used to be. All right, so we're going to talk about what you need to know about this new appeals process. Brought to you as always, Carter Hughes Knowledge Institute. Let's get right into it. Okay, so that VA Appeals Modernization Act, again, was rolled out in 2019. All right, the goal behind this was to make things faster and more efficient. So we got new time frames, right? We got new deadlines for this thing. We got new options. We got new levels for review, and you still got 1 year in order to file that notice of disagreement to get the appeals process started. What that means is if your claim gets denied, you got 1 year from the date of that denial to decide whether or not you want to appeal the decision. All right? And now let's get right into how we actually go about this process. All right? So another thing that's important is that we need to understand those time frames and understand those deadlines as well. All right? Time frames and deadline. Time frame letting you know about how long it's going to be. Deadline letting you know we need something from you by this date. All right. The AMA, again, Appeals Modernization Act of 2019, they set strict time frames, right, for processing those appeals, letting you know this process for this appeal is going to take 90 days or 60 days or 120 days, whatever the case. They give you a time frame. Right? You also got deadlines for each stage of the process. So that means deadline. We need you to send us information by this date or we're going to move forward with what we have. All right? Don't miss the deadline. That's an important one. Do not miss the deadline. So keep track of your deadlines. You can keep track of them through e-benefits. Right? Whatever the VA decides on your claim, whatever decisions, whether they be small or big decisions, they're going to send you correspondence letting you know, hey, this is what we need. This is where we are. If they need something from you, this is what we need, and we need it by this date. All right, so use e-benefits to keep track of your claim. Or you can use your state representative. I mean, if you don't want to do it completely yourself through e-benefits, also use your state rep. You got free state people right by you. They get paid to help you. If you don't go into the office, they getting paid without having to help you, right? So we always recommend go into the office, take advantage, utilize the resources that are available to us as veterans. You know what I mean? Take advantage, baby. These are the new options, right? Again, the appeals process used to be a certain way prior to 2019. 2019, they changed it up, and now we have 3 different lanes for appeals. Meaning, when your claim is denied, you got 1 year to decide, how am I going to appeal this? Am I going to do a supplemental claim? Am I going to do a higher level review? Or am I going to appeal to the Board of Veterans Appeals? All right? For that supplemental claim, that's when you're adding or identifying new and relevant evidence. Right? Let's say you look at that evidence section on your claim got denied. You're saying, okay, man, I didn't send them up the medical records from this thing, lay statement from this person's Nexus statement, whatever the case, I didn't send up the. So I got new and material evidence that I want you to consider before you make that decision again. That will be a supplemental claim. All right? You will use VA Form 200995 in order to file that supplemental claim. Supplemental claim meaning I have new evidence that's relevant that I want you to consider. The second option will be a higher level review. Higher level review means I have no new evidence, but I think you made an error, right? I think you made an error processing this claim with the evidence that you have, and I want your boss to look at it, right? I mean, I'm done with you looking at it. I want your boss, right? Higher level, that's what that means. Higher level, they going up to the boss, bringing the boss saying, hey, you look at this and tell me, right? But you have no new evidence to add to it. I can understand wanting to do that. I would say make sure that you have the evidence for each of those 3 elements, right? In-service event, you have that evidence. Current medical diagnosis, you have that evidence. And then chronicity, showing that it's been a chronic disability that you've been dealing with since separation up until the time you file this claim. All right, if you have evidence for those 3 and you're confident that they're in there, do the high level review. The next one, number 3, that third lane. Remember, 3 lanes. We want to stay on the track of whatever 3 lane we decide to get on. Appeal to the Board of Veterans Appeals. You put it on the docket, all right? You can either do a direct review where you have no evidence and no hearing. You just say, again, we want somebody else to review this. I feel like everything that I need is already in my packet. So if somebody better reviews it, we'll get it approved. Another way is the evidence submission option. That's when you have additional evidence, right? You don't want a hearing, but you have additional evidence that you want the board to consider, right? That higher level of review, and you have additional evidence that you want to send in. And then that third way for the appeal to the Board of Veterans Appeals is a hearing. You want to have a hearing. I want to come into court, sit down, tell my story about this claim and why I should be approved for these benefits. All right? Those are the 3 options with that appeal. For the hearing, you would also use VA Form 200995. For that higher level review, that number 2, you would use VA Form 10182. All right, so on this, we have the different lanes of the reviews and the form that you would use to initiate this type of appeal. And we definitely got to give you those tips, right? Tips for success in the appeals process. Tips for success, the appeals process. I said, tip for success, the appeals process. I think a tip for the tip. All right. Okay, number 1, review the evidence section. That's important. During this appeals process, you want to make sure that they considered all the relevant evidence. What if you sent stuff up there, they never looked at it, but you didn't look at the evidence section and you don't even know? That's why we suggest, hey, look at that evidence. On every decision letter, it'll say evidence, and it'll list out all the evidence they considered before they made that decision. All right, so number 1 is review that evidence section. Number 2, gather your evidence and submit it early on. That's why we always recommend intent to file. When you want to file a claim, do that intent to file. It gives you 12 months to put together the claim, right? Make it strong. Get that evidence for in-service, evidence for chronicity, evidence for that current medical diagnosis, and then send it up. All right? Put it together, make it strong, and then send it up, right? That's what we recommend. Number 3, seek legal guidance if you need it. All right? Talk to the lawyers if you need to, man. In this appeals process, things can get kind of complicated. So if you want to get some legal advice, please go do that. In the area of Virginia, we have what's called Military Mondays. This is where lawyers at a college will say, hey, we'll look at your claims for pro bono, right? If you can find a program like that near you, I would say try it out, right? First, we always suggest start with that free state representative. If you have programs like Military Monday, the state rep can tell you about it. Right? But if you need that legal advice, go ahead and seek that legal guidance if you need it. Right? Number 4, stay organized. Be patient. Then number 5, keep track of your deadlines and communications. Stay organized, be patient, track your deadlines, track your communication. The correspondence between the VA sending you those letters, make sure you read them, because if they need something and they don't get it, that could be something that causes a denial, and we don't want that. All right, with this appeals process, this claim process, this thing could take forever, yes. But if you have what's needed to get that claim approved, whenever it's approved, you'll be good to go, right? That's the back pay day, right? Let's say, hey, man, I filed this claim. It's been up there for 2 years. I don't know what's going on, man. You get it back. You're getting $2,000 a month. That's $48,000 in back pay. All right? Stick with it. Use the tips. Make sure you satisfy each of those 3 elements. Give yourself the best chance to get that claim approved. Again, just some information about the appeals process. As always, learn the information. Use the information. And if you deem it to be valuable, share the information. Don't be selfish, Brody. Hey, and as always, have an incredible day, man.